All right, y'all, strap in. This might be a long one. I've seen a bunch of videos doing the comparison of the old Helix legacy models with the new Agoura amp models. But one thing I really thought was missing is that nobody is doing hardware to hardware. So a lot of the tests are concluding that the sound upgrade, the sonic upgrade from Helix to Stadium isn't that great. And what I noticed about all those videos is that they're just throwing the legacy models into a Stadium preset and A-Bing them that way. And I really think that that kind of misses the point of the Helix Stadium, because on top of the Agoura amp modeling being a completely separate and new everything, the hardware is new. The hardware is completely updated. I actually asked Eric Klein what would he want me to say as far as the upgrade goes, as far as the hardware is concerned. He said, man, everything was improved. ADAs, clocking, op amps, mic pre's, headrooms, dynamic range, the signal noise ratio, and a lot of underlying architecture. End quote. So a lot of stuff has been changed on the physical unit. So that means that your legacy HX amps are probably going to sound better in the Stadium. That's just common sense. And there's a couple of conclusions that I've drawn here. And I'm fully prepared with whiskey for this video because I feel like this might be a pretty long one. And this is definitely for the nerdy crowd, the Helix nerd crowd. I love you guys. I hope you're in here for the long haul because this might get interesting. I'm really curious to see what you guys are going to think and what you do with my conclusions here, because I spent a lot of time on this. I came up with a not exactly a scientific way of doing this, but Sweetwater did reach out and they sponsored this video. They want me to do an A/B test. There's no affiliation with what happens in this video. They just wanted me to make a video showing the old Helix versus the new Helix, what it sounds like versus each other. So that's what I'm going to do. So I probably am not going to do many edits to this. This is probably going to be a long video. I might be making mistakes on the guitar. I might be screwing things up. We're just going to roll with it. This is meant to be like I'm hanging out in the room with you. And, I just want this to be like we're old friends, just sitting in a room, jamming and seeing what we like better. The best way that I came up with to pull this off is amp versus amp. Settings matched through a third-party impulse response. I didn't want to give either end an advantage or disadvantage because of the cabinet section. The Stadium cabinet section and Agoura amps they're supposed to be better. I didn't want to risk the legacy cabinets also having any effect versus the new one. So I thought the best way to do this would be through a third-party IR. I'm going no reverb. I'm going no effects. I'm just doing amp and impulse response, nothing else. So this is going to be dry. It's not meant to sound good per se. Like I'm not saying, hey, go buy this preset. This is literally just meant to say, I pulled up pretty much stock settings on both units and then I kind of matched them and molded them a little bit. And I just wanted to get the point across of just amp cab versus one another, hardware to hardware. Curious to see how this goes. I think that a lot of people sleep on how good the original Helix software sounds. And by software, I mean, if you, for example, went into a really high-end guitar-friendly interface and played Helix native, you would get phenomenal professional results, much better than you would get in the 10-year-old physical hardware of Helix. And people forget that the software is what makes it sound really good also, that there's a big part of this that is the insides, not just the physical hardware. So there's no reason to be upset that the legacy Helix amps hang with the Agoura amps. I think that if anything, it's a testament to how much the Helix overperforms than it is saying like, oh, well, it's not that much of an upgrade to go up to the Agoura. At this point in the modeling world, everything sounds really good. Like, what are we doing here? We're like splitting such small hairs. Like, how much better and how much closer can we get to a real isolated guitar amp, mic'd up in another room. How much closer can we really get? How much better can the Helix sound? I know a lot of people prefer the other modelers for sounds. It is what it is. You have your preference, but at the end of the day, I say this in a lot of my videos, that it's all going to sound as good or as bad as you, the player, can make it sound. I could play an old Helix every day for the rest of my life on gigs and be totally happy and never once complain or be upset because I'm happy with the professional results that I get from it. Now, that being said, Stadium is a hardware upgrade. It's got the touchscreen. It's going to sound better just on the physical aspects of the improvements in the hardware, plus an improvement in the software. Even if it is a marginal increase, if you care so much about your sound, isn't that worth it? So yeah, let's look at what I got here. So I got 4 amps dialed in. I did the Deluxe, the 2203, the Matchless, and the Rev Purple. I chose 3 Agouras and 1 Legacy because the Matchless was always my favorite amp in the old Helix, and I think it's just the best sounding amp in the entire unit. So I wanted to see how the old one stacks up to the new one because the old one always sounded the best. So you see here, this is a Stadium edit. I've got my Deluxe. I've got my IR, no high cuts, no low cuts, no tricks, no anything. There are the settings, and I've matched that up with the Comp Deluxe on the Helix Edit. Same IR. I'm using a York Audio Creamback IR. Also, it's my favorite IR. I use it in all the units. Now, this isn't saying that you need an IR in Helix Stadium or Helix. The cabinet softwares are all good enough to get professional results. For this specific experiment, I thought it was the most fair to go completely third party with an impulse response. I use stock cabs in both old Helix and in Helix Stadium. You do not need IRs. I'm going to make that clear because I know somebody in the comments is going to go, oh, I just bought the new $2,200 Helix Stadium and I need to put IRs in it to sound good. Can we just save that type of stuff? Like, come on. So here's what I'm working with here. Playing my Les Paul Custom. It's Christmas season, so I'm breaking out the red. I just got this new watch. This is a Vario Futurist green. That's going to match my red guitar for Christmas show. There's my Stadium. There's Grandpa Helix. And what I'm going to focus on here is this radial. This thing is great. It's the Class A amp switcher. So this is meant to switch between amplifiers, but in this case, it actually works perfect. Go check out these if you ever want to do any real ABY testing. It's the best ABY. This has no noise, no ground loops, no anything. Sounding just the same. I'm using the same length cable, the same length XLR cables into my interface. There is no variable that is not matched between the two. So let's get right after it, shall we? So I can go A and B, where this is B. B is going to the old Helix. A is going to the Helix Stadium. And then when I hit Y, that's going to be both. So I'll repeat the performance twice. I'm just going to cut the exact same clip so you hear the same performance back to back in each unit. This is going to sound like crap to me because it's probably they're coming in at the same time and it's going to be a little bit phasey in my ears. So that's going to be the least enjoyable for me, but maybe useful for you. So again, A is the Stadium. B is the old Helix. Okay, so here we go. Again, A is Stadium. B is Helix. Bridge pickup through the Deluxe. Right off the bat, I feel like I could pick the Helix out every single time. There is a 3.5 to 4K graininess that the Helix has always been known for. And not that it's a bad thing, but that amplified through a PA system is what the harsh high end is. So when this sound, the Helix, might sound great over YouTube, but I'm not I'm not focused on how this sounds to a viewer on YouTube. I'm focused on how this is going to translate live in an arena or in a theater or in a bar. Once it gets amplified through the PA system, that high end is going to be grainy, tinny, and super harsh. And that's usually why the Helix needed so many tricks as doing high cuts and stuff. But now when you compare that to the Stadium, the Stadium doesn't have that like really grainy, hashy high end. I hope this is translating over YouTube, because for me at home, this is completely glaring. And you see here, the settings are all matched up. The only thing I had to adjust was I had to gain up Stadium a little bit because it's a little bit cleaner than the old Helix. I mean, the gain level sounds about the same, right? But you might say, oh, well, the Helix Stadium might sound a little bit duller, but that's good, because live, that is going to sound so much better. And even now, if I say, look what I could do with this. I could kick the Stadium treble all the way up. So even with the Helix Stadium's treble cranked up, it's not as harsh as the old Helix is. And the old Helix, the treble is only at 4.5. Now, if I did the same thing with the Helix, an old Helix, so that's exaggerating that, like, it's like making me like flinch a little bit. And that's kind of like a real amp would sound if you crank the treble up. You can get away with cranking the treble on a real amp, right? Who hasn't done that when you need to? I don't recommend it always, but if you need to, it should work. You should be able to do that. And here with the Deluxe, it just doesn't work. You hear how, I hope you understand what I'm saying, that there's just that high end stuff. You know, people call it squirrels, or it might be called aliasing. I'm not really sure of the technicality of what it's called, but man, it's so glaring to me. Let's go neck pickup and see. The Stadium just sounds so much warmer and realistic. Let's put this back down to 5. Over to Stadium. And we'll call that 5 as well. I feel like you really hear it there, like how obvious B is the Helix versus those notes are blending so much better together, and they're not getting that weird hashy distortion. Even there, I feel like Stadium sounds a bit more full. Let's put the Y cable on so that you're going to hear both of these at the same time, and I'm going to just repeat the same exact performance so you could hear them both side by side. I'm going to go with the bridge pickup and just kind of bang on some chords. Now I'll play something a little bit higher up, just something random. I'm just curious for myself now what that's going to sound like on my own. I feel like it's so obvious when B is on that that's the old Helix. You could just, that high end is just, it's undeniably there. I hope that you guys are getting that at home. Okay, let's go to the 2203, which is a newer model in the old Helix. And again, the settings are matched. Everything is exactly the same settings wise. Same IR. Same IR. And levels. Level match is perfect. Okay. Let's pull it up. Okay. I'm not even going to look at which one I'm on because I forgot. That's the Helix right away. I don't even want to look, but I'm pretty sure that that's going to say B. Yes, it says B. Now, that's not to say that that's a bad sound, but that is going to take some tricks and finessing to get that high end out before I would take this to a gig. That just sounds awesome. I don't know how to describe it. Like it's almost like the Helix sounds a little bit more excited, which might feel cool here. Again, it's reiterating the same point as before. That might be good going A and B. You always like the brighter and the louder one when you're by yourself. You're like, oh, wow, that's nice. That's really going to cut through. But trust me, as somebody that's been touring with Helix and with all the modelers since 2017, that will never translate live. That will always, Fletcher Munson Curve will destroy you and turn that into a sloppy high-end mess. Let's go neck pickup. I'm going to put the Y cable on so you can hear this now side by side. Now so I can get my sanity back. I actually almost feel like the Helix thins out a little bit more with the single note stuff. You just instantly hear that that's warmer and richer, and yep, I'm on A. Just sounds more amp-like to me. Let's go to the matchless, which now I have, not to be the salesman here, but my main touring preset on Helix was always this Matchstick Channel 2, and that's the preset I have for sale on my website, stevestrelacci.com. You can check out links to it below if you want to see the touring preset that I use all around the world. Are you still with me, people? Let's do the matchless. What are you thinking here? Because I have thoughts, and this sounds identical to me, personally. This is a legacy model in Helix Stadium, and regular Helix, this is obviously the same amp as always. This one I hear exactly the same. I don't hear a difference in this. Maybe because it just always sounded the best in Helix, and never, like, there was never anything wrong with how this sounded in Helix. That's why I always leaned on the Matchless for my live preset, because it didn't have that grainy high end that other models did. So I actually always just toured with this sound. And let's check out the settings. Let's make sure I'm not crazy. Yep, we're dead on with settings. Let's hear how that sounds with the Y-Kip. Curious if... I'm going to guess that this one is Helix. Yep. And for me, the tell was something in the high end with the single notes. Almost like the note gives up a little bit in the old Helix. I'm kicking this around. It's got a little bit more bloom, more amp-like bloom in Stadium. Do you hear that? Is that translating over YouTube? Yeah, there's like that weird thinness to the attack. Maybe this is just a feel thing, and this is what people are constantly asking me about too, is feel. Maybe it's just a feel thing that the Helix Stadium just feels better, especially playing those single notes. But overall, that's the closest. But I'm also not surprised, because that's a legacy model. Also, it's the best legacy model in my opinion. Like I said, I use that on tour around the world with great success. Okay, so let's do the Rev Gen Purple now. Setting for setting. And I'll tell you what's on the right in a second. Yep, so setting for setting with the Rev Purple. No comparison. I mean, you can't, this is the most obvious to me in the higher gain stuff, where that hashy high end is just, it's brutal. This is why Helix always had the reputation of needing some help, needing high cuts, needing some finesse with the EQs and the compressors because of that high end. Yes, you can get that out. You absolutely can get that out. Like, let's double check that I even have the same settings here, because that is what a difference. Yep, 7.2, 7.2 on the treble. And now let's do that treble test again. If I crank the treble up on both of these, let's see what happens. That's still a usable sound with the treble that high. It's like a relief to get off of that. That treble, again, if that's translating over YouTube and you think that that sounds good, that's not good. That is that fatiguing 3.5K. That's the type of thing that sounds great at home. The type of thing that when you play it here, you're like, wow, that's that biting sound. I know I'm repeating myself, but that is exactly what you need to EQ out to make that usable live. You're going to need to do a drastic high cut, or you're going to have to do some type of massaging to that, or your engineer is going to have to get that high end out. I mean, that's crazy. That was fine because that was this one. And now for a sanity check, am I recording right? For a sanity check, I brought up the Legacy Rev Purple setting for setting in Helix Stadium. So you see now that's what this is. Same IR, same settings. Let's get this back to 7.2. Good, good, good. Okay, so now we're all even. Let's see how the Legacy holds up to the actual hardware of Helix. And I feel like this is a good example because the only difference is that hashy high end. You hear how fatiguing that gets. Here's the same performance twice. And now for a sanity check, am I recording right? For a sanity check, I brought up the Legacy Rev Purple setting for setting in Helix Stadium. So you see now that's what this is. Same IR, same settings. Let's get this back to 7.2. Good, good, good. Okay, so now we're all even. Let's see how the Legacy holds up to the actual hardware of Helix. And I feel like this is a good example because the only difference is that hashy high end. You hear how fatiguing that gets. Here's the same performance twice. Yikes. But you see that still has that fatness and doesn't have the really hashy high end, which was Helix's biggest problem again. It's there. I mean, I hear it. I hope you guys are hearing that because and that is what always made Helix sound fake. I just feel like the single notes, even in this scenario, just have an edge in the stadium. It feels better. The notes bloom properly. I'm not trying to torch Helix here. I'm not saying that Helix is bad. I'm just saying that Stadium feels better. The notes explode more. Are these results achievable in Helix? Absolutely. You can EQ the hell out of it. You can high cut it. You can get it sounding more real. With Stadium, I feel like it's already there. You don't need to finesse it and you don't need to do tricks. And now what you can do is going to enhance the sound as opposed to correct the sound. Stadium, in my opinion, doesn't need correction. You could just enhance it with whatever post-amp sweeteners you want, your reverbs, your EQs, your compression, whatever you want to do. It's only going to make it sound better. Whereas with the older Helix stuff, it took a lot of work to get the sounds usable in the old hardware, at least, because again, you plug into Helix Native, you can get those results. You take a really good interface, like I use a SSL12, you plug into Helix Stadium with that, and you plug into Helix Native rather, and you're going to get great results. There's no reason not to. A lot of people, a lot of pros reamp with Helix Native, and it always sounds great. I've even done it here where I'll record with like my Rupert Neve RNDIs. I'll take that dry DI guitar and reamp that through Helix Native. And I'm almost always more impressed with the results of the real DI reamped through Helix Native. And I always just attribute it to, I'm editing in post, so of course I have a better ear for it. But maybe it was just the hardware limitations of the 10-year-old hardware of Helix. And just side note, not random, but side note, as I take my last sip and bid you all good night, it was actually funny going back to fiddling around with the old Helix hardware. What at one time felt like the most user-friendly interface, like, wow, I love Helix. It's so easy to use. It's so great. You got the encoder that goes side to side, the joystick. Going from Stadium to Helix as far as playing with the physical hardware units, my God, there's no comparison. I felt like I went in a time machine and I didn't even know how to use the original Helix anymore. I was like, holy crap, this is so much more difficult just from using Stadium in the short time period that I've had it. And I've had Helix for 8 years now. So that's another thing, that using Helix Stadium makes you forget that the Helix was great, but it's so much better to use the Stadium that it makes the original Helix feel hard to use. Anyway, cheers guys. If you made it this far in the video, thanks for watching. I'll see you all in the next one, and have a good night. Or day, whatever time it is when you watch this. This will probably be up in the morning, so pretend that was coffee.